Is alcohol a sin? Does the Bible actually tell us to drink alcohol? That's coming up in today's episode of Bible Truth 101. God. Wow. I'm sorry, y'all didn't see that, did you? Man. Y'all didn't see that. I bet I'm going to hell. Drinking alcohol? That's a sin. I'm going to go to hell for that. I can't be saved. Can't be a Christian and drinking. Just to put your lips to wine is a sin. And you're going to go to hell. What's up, guys? This is Bible Guy here. Back with another video. Today we're going to learn, is this really a sin? Should Christians drink? Is it a sin for Christians to drink? Does the Bible actually tell us to drink wine? Let's get into it. Go ahead and give you my answer to it. My answer is drinking a sin? No, it's not. We see in Ephesians 5:18, it says, "And be not drunk with wine, wherein is excess, but be filled with the Spirit." So we see right here that actually God has given a certain amount. If actual wine, drinking it in itself was a sin, we see God wouldn't have gave a certain limit. He would have just said, do not drink alcohol. And he says, don't drink in excess, so that it becomes a sin. There is a limit to where wine becomes a sin. Be not drunk with it. You ask yourself, well, does the Bible actually tell us to give people wine? And the answer to that is yes. It says in 1 Timothy 5:23, it says, drink no longer water, but use a little wine for thy stomach's sake, and thine often infirmities. So we see right there, he's telling you, drink no longer this water, pick up this wine for thy stomach's sake, and thine often infirmities. And y'all can look up infirmities, but we know infirmities is a lot of things dealing with ailment, stress, sadness of the heart, just all kind of infirmities and things you face and you go through. You see, in the Bible, wine was actually used for a type of medicine to bring enjoyment, to bring relaxation, to deal with certain problems. I mean, there's parts in the Bible where he's given it because of a wedding, because of a special supper, just different special occasions. But we also see that he tells us to drink wine for different ailments. There are bad ways to consume alcohol. And if we look at the bad ways, in Isaiah 5:11, it says, "Woe unto them that rise up early in the morning, that they may follow strong drink, that continue until night, till wine inflame them." So we see right here, these are those people that's become drunkards. How you know if you become a drunkard? Well, it tells you right here. You rise up early in the morning. Have you ever seen those people? I used to have them, on my job. They brag every day about how they kind of wake up and get a little drink. They get a little drink midday. Some of them, when they go on lunch at work, they get a little drink. And then they, on the way home, stop by the store. You see them at the store. I used to go in there to get me a Mountain Dew after work, and they'd be in there putting a 6-pack on the counter and going home to kick the recliner back. And this would be a daily thing. That's people that's done relied on alcohol, as a ritual. And they've actually become a drunkard. They got to have it in their system at all times. Just not for special occasions and certain times, their stomach's not well, or, they got some bad things going on in life, a little here and there. They ain't actually handling it in moderation. And we see that the Bible is all about moderation. Isaiah 5:22 says, "Woe unto them that are mighty to drink wine, and men of strength to mingle strong drink." So we see right here people that are mighty on wine. They consume it a lot. They love to take a lot at one time. And also men of strength to mingle strong drink. There's a lot of difference in actual pure alcohol, taking shots, partying. We see all that's wrong, because we know at parties, drinking parties, it's all about consuming as much as you can in a short period of time. Getting messed up, getting drunk, falling over, passing out, not being in your right mind. But we see wine, if you take wine the right way, and it's mixed the right way, the Bible speaks a lot about it being pure wine. So it's wine that's, for instance, like this one, a whole entire bottle has a low amount of alcohol in it, a low percentage. This one's only 13.5% by volume, which means you basically have to guzzle down this whole entire bottle to probably really feel anything. So we see in here, we actually drink it in moderation. Maybe a glass, is only going to take about that much of the bottle. You get a little half a wine glass and drink that, and you might not drink again for a few days or a week or whatever it may be. Or if you're like me, I go a year sometimes without drinking anything. And then I'll pop up and get a bottle of wine, or I'll get a 6-pack of the little, I like to drink wine coolers. I like things to be a little more fruity flavored, and I don't like to really taste the alcohol. I like a hint of it, just like with my coffee. I like a hint of coffee. That's why, I drink Starbucks coffee, French vanilla, or, caramel or something. I like it to be kind of just a tad bit. I drink it in moderation, just rarely. And I might end up pouring out over half the bottle because it sits in there for a year or more. But see right here, it's all about strong drink. So that's bad ways to do it, is strong drinks. Then we look in Leviticus 10:9. It says, "Do not drink wine nor strong drink, thou nor thy sons with thee, when ye go into the tabernacle of the congregation, lest ye die. It shall be a statute forever throughout your generations." So we don't need to be taking this into church with us. Not because it's bad to do in moderation, because it's not, but because it causes confusion. There's a way to be respectful when you do drink in moderation. So you don't want to go into the congregation with it. You don't want to cause controversy. There's going to be people around in the congregation that maybe used to be a drunk, and they just been overcoming their drinking problems, and they quit drinking and got right with God because they were a drunk. They don't need you bringing this around them. There's a type of respectfulness. You don't want to cause, we'll see here in a minute, we don't want to cause our brother to stumble. So this is something that needs to be done in our own personal time. Then we see in Proverbs 23, 20 to 21, says, be not among winebibbers, among righteous eaters of flesh. For the drunkard and the glutton shall come to poverty, and drowsiness shall clothe a man with rags. So we see we don't want to be among winebibbers. So basically people who are drunkards. We don't want to be among them. We don't want to become like them. We see in other verses in some of my other videos, Christians aren't supposed to be friends with the world, having personal relationships with the worldly people. And that is basically the drunkards too. They don't know how to use their wine. They aren't Christians. They don't have the Spirit of God in them. They don't have the conviction of God within them, because the Spirit lives in them and convicts them and guides them. So they become a drunk. They don't have no guidance in how to consume the wine. And we're looking at the good ways to use wine. We see once again in 1 Timothy 5 and 23, it's to be given wine for our stomach's sake and thine infirmities. So only use it when you need it. Then we see in Proverbs 31, 6 and 7, it says, give strong drink unto him that's ready to perish, and wine unto those that be of heavy hearts. Let him drink and forget his poverty, and remember his misery no more. So we see wine is actually given to help forget your poverty and your misery, so you won't remember them no more. And there's another instance in the Bible where a woman lost her husband and her son and lost pretty much everything in the same day. They died, and she was having it hard, nobody to help her. And the Bible was actually commanding them to give the lady wine so she could forget her troubles. So we can use it as a medicine to forget things. It's good ways to use it. And then we see in Psalms 104 and 15, it says, and wine that maketh glad the heart of man, and oil to make his face to shine, and bread which strengtheneth man's heart. So once again right there, and wine that maketh glad the heart of man. So you use the wine in a way just to make you glad. And I like to say it like this, I don't like to get tipsy with wine, but by the way the Bible's looking, you kind of drink it to where you're mellowed. But you don't never want to get out of your thinking. You don't never want to consume enough wine that you can't think straight and you can't make discernments. A lot of men, I used to hear them say that. They would say, it wasn't my fault I cheated on my wife. It was the alcohol's fault. Or she got me drunk and took advantage of it. Well, you have a choice. You swallow or not swallow. You shouldn't be anywhere where there's alcohol and women anyway when you're married. I mean, maybe if you're not a child of God, but I know us Christians, just to make sure I stay faithful to my wife, I'm not going to be alone anywhere with women. I stay and I go everywhere that's not going to allow me to be alone. And I'm definitely not going to mix alcohol and be away from my wife around women. It's just common sense. Use the right judgment. You got the Spirit of God living in you if you're a Christian. I mean, the Spirit of God is going to give you all the woes, telling you, whoa, don't do that. Whoa, get away from there. Whoa, you better get gone. Don't do that. I mean, the same God and His Spirit that wrote this Bible and gave us this Bible and gave us the woes in this Bible, the same one's living inside of you, and you take it with you daily everywhere you go. We see in Romans 14 and 21, it says, it is good neither to eat flesh, nor to drink wine, nor anything whereby thy brother stumbleth, or is offended, or is made weak. So we see in that verse right there, the right way to drink wine is not to make your brother stumble. So you don't want to offend your brother. You don't want to make them stumble. And I always use the example, you got people that, used to be a drunk and they don't need to be around wine. Don't cause them to stumble. Don't bring it around them. If you know that he used to be a drunk, don't go to him and tell him he should go drink a glass of wine because he's got a stomach ache. I mean, you might want to tell him about something else that he can use because you don't want him to stumble and get a taste of wine and then, become a drunkard again. We don't want to offend anybody. So you got people out here that no matter about this video, whether they see it, don't see it, we got people out here that believe that just putting this alcohol to your lips is going to send you to hell. And you're not a Christian. And if you do confess to be a Christian and they see you drink a little bit of wine, or happen to come in a restaurant and they see you sitting over there with a glass of wine, they're going to think that you're a fake Christian. I mean, I don't know if they just don't know no better or don't care to know no better, but we don't want to really drink it around them. We don't want to cause controversy. It's just better just to leave it alone. Do it in your own time. Don't go out here and use wine on purposely to make somebody see you that as a Christian that don't believe in drinking wine. Don't rub it in their face. Be respectful. Don't offend them. And don't use it to make anybody weak. Don't use it to your advantage to make somebody weak to get what you want. There's all ways to do it. But those are the good ways we see. So there's no denying it. And I want to say this. For a long time, I was one of those. Got a pamphlet here. This pamphlet's been with me for a long time. I used to be in an independent Baptist church. Now, I'm not saying independent's bad, because I love independent because of how strict they are with the Bible, but they get a lot of things wrong because they're so strict. You got these old-timer pastors that get up there in the pulpit and they actually preach that sticking this bottle to your lips, you're going to hell. You're not saved, you're not born again, and you're going to hell. I used to sit under a pastor for about 5 or 6 years that I respected, and he preached that a sip of wine will send you to hell. He said that it says it in this Bible. He preached it as Bible truth, God said. And I believed him. For those about 5 years, I would go witnessing door to door with them. I'd take this pamphlet to work with me and talk to the people that talked about drinking. And it's a John R. Rice. And this is not saying I don't respect John R. Rice. I still think he's one of the greatest preachers I've ever heard. And I still watch him and I still listen to him. But got to looking at this pamphlet after my eyes were open, after I found out the truth of the Bible. And he pretty much sums it up in this book. And I used to take this book around and show it to everybody and read out of it and be like, look, you don't need to be drinking wine. It'll send you to hell. I told so many people that. He tries to say the Bible, you don't know when you're drunk or not drunk. There's no way to know. So it's a sin to even drink. When we know that's a lie, because the Bible tells us that we discern it within ourselves. And you say, well, how do you know when you've crossed the line of being a drunkard? It's called conviction. It's called you have the Spirit of God living in you. When I get my little wine coolers that come in a 6-pack, it's the little ones that don't have a whole lot of alcohol volume. I know I can drink 1 to 2 and not feel anything. I can drink 1 and definitely not feel anything. except for maybe starting to feel a tad bit of a mellow. But usually on my second bottle, towards the end of it, I start to feel a little more mellow, and I can kind of tell that something's about to start. And I'm convicted to stop. If I'm not done with that second bottle, I pour it out. Sometimes I can finish the second bottle and be right where, I need to be without any convictions. Because we see in the Bible, it says it's not wrong. So it's based on convictions. And God gives us personal convictions, which means everybody's is different. If it's something, for example, like gluttony, eating food is not wrong. Just like drinking wine is not wrong. But overeating food is gluttony. Just like over drinking wine is drunkenness. So if you're like this preacher and you're going to say, well, you don't know when you've crossed the line, so it's a sin to drink it at all, then you're saying, how do you know you're crossing the line of if you're overeating? So it's just better off not to eat. That's the same thing you're saying. And we know good and well it's not better off to eat, not to eat, because you would die. Not saying that you would die if you didn't drink wine, but actually you could die, because actually there's things in this wine, and the right wine, antioxidants and things that actually help your stomach. Now and then, you got doctors that tell you to drink a little wine or a little actual beer every once in a while, keep your kidneys flushed out. If you don't, you might be one of those people that eventually die of kidney failure problems because they didn't stay flushed out and something happened and eventually caused some type of failure in your kidneys or bad kidneys, and then you die of it. God has his reasons, people, and we can't preach that this is a sin when God plainly says how you drank it can become a sin, but not drinking it. Jesus gave people wine at the wedding. It says Jesus drank wine at the supper. And I'll tell you a little story. My old pastor, I had told him, that God was calling me to preach this was a long time ago, over 15 years ago. Just a young 20-year-old trying to learn my way, knew God was calling me to preach. I go to this pastor and tell him that. And he kind of gets an attitude with me. And we were actually talking, and I actually discovered the Bible. I actually read for myself. For a long time I sat under him and said that drinking alcohol was a sin. It would send you to hell. But then I had actually started reading the Bible instead of just going off what my pastor tells me. Blindsided, just believing my pastor, because I'm like, well, he's a good man of God. There's no way he could ever be wrong. So I just believed everything he said. I didn't read for myself. But when I started reading for myself after about 5 years of sitting under him, and I actually found out the truth about alcohol, I went to him and was talking to him one day about alcohol, and I about gave the man a heart attack. He seemed like he was literally about to have a heart attack because I told him that I thought drinking wine in moderation was okay with God, and that God says it's okay. And he got on to telling me, no, it's a sin. You can't drink wine. And he reads this verse talking about don't drink wine in excess, you'll become a drunkard. Then he showed me where it says a drunkard would not enter the kingdom of heaven. And I'm like, okay, it says a drunkard would not enter the kingdom of heaven. It didn't say people who drank alcohol, but a drunkard when you've reached a limit of excessiveness. And it actually gives it a certain degree of drinking. It says do not drink in excess. It didn't say do not drink at all. And then he goes and, I told him, I said, well, Pastor, I actually believe Jesus drank wine. He said, I hope you're meaning unfermented wine, because that's all he drank was grape juice, not wine. Let me tell you something. It does not say in this Bible nowhere that Jesus drunk unfermented wine. It just says he drunk wine. It don't say fermented or unfermented. So yeah, I get where that's up for debate because he doesn't say whether it's alcohol or non-alcoholic wine. But we see in these days in Bible, it says it's not a sin to drink wine, but to drink it in excess for the wrong reasons and abundance, strong drink, is actually a sin. And I told him, I said, no, Pastor, I believe Jesus drunk alcoholic wine. That man about fell over. His face turned red. He seemed like rage came in him. And he said, let me tell you something. My Jesus was sinless. You're trying to say Jesus committed sin. You'll never stand in my pulpit and preach because you're not saved. He had the nerve to tell me I was not a real Christian because a real Christian wouldn't say Jesus drunk alcoholic wine. A real Christian wouldn't call Jesus a sinner. I said, but Pastor, I'm not calling Jesus a sinner. Yeah, you are. You saying he drunk wine. My God was sinless. Wine's a sin. So you saying he sinned. I said, no, Pastor, I'm saying that he was sinless because he drunk wine and he didn't drink it in excess because he was Almighty God who created wine or the things to create wine. He was the one that made it. He knew how to drink it. I mean, sit here and think about it. If he's giving wine to us and trusting us to drink wine but do it in moderation, then who are we to say that Jesus couldn't handle drinking it right? And just to say I didn't sit under that pastor anymore. Because after he told me I couldn't preach in his pulpit, it wasn't just alcohol, but it's because I had an earring in my ear. And he told me that I would never get in his pulpit wearing an earring in my ear. Because that was against God. But yet he's got women over Sunday school classes and women over choir, being a choir director, and they're wearing earrings. He said, you're harming the temple of God. You can't preach. But nowhere in here, as a deacon or a bishop, it says in here, gets qualifications. It says nothing about wearing an earring. You commit gluttony, you're harming the temple of God. And I looked at this pastor and I said, look, Pastor, you're saying because I believe in drinking wine in moderation and I wear an earring, you're telling me I can't preach the word of God because I'm harming the temple of God, and I can't never stand behind your pulpit in your church and preach the word of God because of that. But yet you get up there every Sunday morning, especially after we have a dinner. Let us have a dinner at church and then him get up there and preach. Let us have a dinner on Saturday and have church Sunday morning. He's going to get up there and make a joke about overeating. Oh man, I had my belly hurting. I couldn't stop eating. I ate 2 plates and I should have stopped. My stomach started hurting, but it was so good I went back for a 3rd plate. And he have everybody in the congregation laughing. I don't know what it is about Baptists and love making jokes about overeating and committing gluttony. And you say, well, Bible guy, he was just joking. My pastor does that. He just jokes. It's a way to break the ice and make everybody laugh. No. More than likely, if you're a Baptist, your pastor's got a belly about this big. He's a big old guy. And it's because he's always eating at church dinners and he's always overeating. He might be making a joke out of it, but he really doesn't. Because I sat there and watched my pastor eat 3 plates. He wasn't lying. Did he need 3 plates? No. He actually, the way he had the first plate packed, he didn't really need the whole first plate. And the Bible actually teaches you how to eat in moderation in here. We are to go by that. We see in Luke 7:34, it says, the Son of Man came eating and drinking. And you say, here is a glutton and a drunkard, a friend of tax collectors and sinners. Here's the Pharisees. Here's the false people, false Christians. And these are like the pastors that teach you that Jesus didn't drink wine and drinking wine is a sin and send you to hell. They got a religion and not truth. And we see right here Jesus is making that clear with these Pharisees that are religious people. but they don't speak truth. They say that even the Son of Man, saying Jesus came eating and drinking. You say, well, that wasn't drinking wine, that was drinking water or whatever. No, it's not, because it says, and you say, it's talking about the Pharisees would say, here is a glutton and a drunkard. Why would they say here is a drunkard? He had to have been drinking wine that was alcoholic. Wine had alcohol in it. So this is non-fermented or fermented. This is alcoholic wine. They see Jesus eating a good feast, drinking wine with people that used to be tax collectors, his disciples, that used to be tax collectors and sinners. And he's sitting with sinners. He's having a feast, drinking wine. They're being happy. He's perfect. He's sinless. He knew how to drink it in moderation, how to give it to people in moderation, and at the right times for what they needed. And we see that Jesus gave people wine. He sat at a supper table and gave his disciples wine and gave himself wine. And it was because it was in moderation. It was done the right way. Nobody was sinning. Jesus is still sinless, drinking wine. And we can drink wine without sin. It says in 1 Timothy 3:8, in the same way deacons are to be worthy of respect, sincere, not indulging in much wine, and not pursuing dishonest gain. So even deacons, and it says likewise, deacons are not to be indulging in much wine. So we see deacons, and when it says likewise, it's talking about the bishops too. If you read in the verses before, it gives the qualifications of a bishop and then the qualifications of a deacon. And it's saying likewise for both of them. Don't be given to much wine. So actually it's letting you know, you pastors and you deacons, which are only supposed to be men, not women. I took care of that in my other video. But you men deacons and you men pastors, you can drink wine. Don't do it in a church, do it at home, do it in moderation. Don't be of much wine. Don't have a love for wine. Don't let it overtake you. But I want to do this, and wrapping this up, my summary. All of us are accountable to God for our own actions. And all of our actions must spring forth from faith. For some, faith will lead to abstinence. The spirit inside of you and your personal conviction from God might lead you to abstinence. Stay away. If it does, listen to your spirit. For others, it will lead to moderation. This would be me. When I do drink, and it might take me years, it's always moderation. I'll end up throwing away half the bottle. Regardless of our convictions, let us remember to do all things to the glory of God. Kind of like me, for example. I'm one of those drinks in moderation. But I'm not going to go in the church house bragging about drinking in moderation, because there are going to be people there that some of them's ignorant and don't know the Word of God, and they just believe drinking at all is bad. I don't need to get in an argument with them over it. We're there to worship. We got other things to worry about. I'll just drink it in my time, in my moderation. But do it to the glory of God. So remember, not to judge others based on your personal convictions from God directly to you and for you alone. It's not okay to say it's better not to drink. And this pastor told me this. He said, well, let's say it was okay. Wouldn't it be better, though, not to drink? And I can't argue with that. It probably is better not to drink. But then again, some people might need it for their ailments. It might be better for them to drink. You can't sit there and say that. Now, if the world didn't have alcohol, it might be a better world. You wouldn't have the crashes and the drunk driving, but people die from a lot of other things. I mean, that's their fault for not drinking in moderation. Me, even drinking in moderation, I'm not going not even half of the limit to get in trouble for it, but I'm still not going to go drive. I'm going to make sure I'm not going to have to drive. I'm just being respectful even though I drink in moderation. It's not okay to say it's better not to drink. We should all be respectful to others, whether our convictions from God lead us to be abstinence from alcohol or to drink it in moderation. For when we start preaching, this is to the pastors that's preaching, you'll go to hell. Just for touching, sipping it, whatever. We cannot preach our personal convictions as being God's convictions to everyone. We end up preaching a false religion that is not of God's word. We all have separate convictions of alcohol based on what God feels is suitable for each one of us based on our weaknesses and our strengths. So remember, it is not a sin to drink, but it becomes a sin to drink in excess. So if God convicts you not to drink at all, then don't drink and keep it a personal conviction to yourself. And obey God, but do not tell everyone else that they can't drink or they'll be sinning. Likewise, if God convicts you it's okay to drink in moderation, then keep it for your personal time and don't go pushing it on the others to drink. And I'll leave you with this verse in 1 Corinthians 10 and 31. It says, so whether you eat or drink, whatever you do, do it all for the glory of God. But that's the video, guys. I hope you got something out of it, and I'll see you in the next video. Bible Guy out.